Okay, it's going to be a review of WWF Invasion 2001. So we're at the 20th year anniversary of this show. July 22nd, 2001 from Cleveland, Ohio, the Gunn Arena, even before LeBron James started playing for Cleveland. So it goes back a long time ago. So my brother's here with me because, we have great memories of the Invasion. I think the Invasion from start to finish, it was actually the first pay-per-view we actually watched together.
This really got you into it, you know? And this was a big deal in kind of getting you into pro wrestling. That's what I remember. This is probably like the first. I remember you had kind of seen King of the Ring.
Yeah.
But this was the one that we were watching together all the way through. And I remember you really enjoyed it. And it was just very memorable. There's a lot of it that I don't remember. As I look at Booker T. But, obviously this is, every time you mention this pay-per-view, I think of Rob Van Dam. That's just the first thing I think about. He's still, as you...
Well, and I think that's part of the reason why a lot of the, indie fans, maybe ECW fans like the Invasion, because, you think about guys like RVD, Lance Storm, Booker T, some of the better, younger workers. But yeah, man, I did want to mention this. This is the highest pay-per-view buy rate of a non-WrestleMania pay-per-view. So 775,000 pay-per-view buys. And when people see that number, like, oh man, the Invasion sucked, but that buy rate did such a good buy rate. And it doesn't really surprise me because, at the time, WWF was doing about 400,000 or 500,000 for a regular pay-per-view. And then on top of that, you had WCW diehards that were going to order this show. And then you have ECW diehard fans that were, obviously, ECW pay-per-views were pretty much doing even better than WCW at the time. And then icing on the cake, you had Austin turning babyface, which I think it got a lot of people excited about the show. And maybe I think a lot of people felt hurt like when Austin turned heel. It was almost like a girlfriend dumping you because you felt so emotionally invested. And it's like, oh, this guy's going against the grain and kind of like turning on me. And then I think it was uplifting, right, for Austin fans.
Yeah. The Raw before the pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was the Raw before.
Yeah.
He basically, he was in a pool hall with Deborah, or at a bar with Deborah.
Yeah, he was shooting pool, and then he breaks the pool stick.
Because you could see he was watching Raw on TV, and he was like watching the WWE wrestlers get their asses kicked, and everyone was talking, Austin's not here, he's gone, and he was just like fuming watching the TV, and you could see the old Austin, the 98, 99 Austin coming out, and then he freaking breaks the pool stick over the table, and then Deborah starts yelling at him, and he leaves Deborah at the bar. He backs out in a Jeep or something, and he drives back to the Raw, and you're like, oh shit, and it was awesome. I remember the glass broke, and he came out, to the ring, and it was the crowd went crazy. Yeah. It was pretty badass.
No, I mean, what he did was incredible because he really enhanced his character. You saw all these different dimensions of him being funny, him being depressed, him drinking, and then him, turning babyface before this pay-per-view. It's almost like the mistake that they made with Austin turning heel. You could argue that the Invasion provided like this magical door where you could get out of it, right?
Yeah, I
especially if you're looking at the pay-per-view buy rates dropping and you're blaming it on the Austin heel turn, this is a way to get out of it.
I agree. I think so. This gave him another layer of like, wow, this isn't about McMahon. Like, he's just a snake. He's a rattlesnake, but now he's not our rattlesnake. He's the rattlesnake biting us. Yeah. Even if Vince McMahon is one of us. Right. In this case.
It's an interesting story, and this kind of shows you how weird wrestling could be. It's like on this heel turn, it's like he's turning his back on Vince. And he's turning heel by doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's totally the other way around. So it is interesting. But I'm glad that Austin turned heel. Apparently he was really pushing to stay heel because for a lot of different reasons. But I'm glad he did because I would say this: the Invasion Austin stuff. It's kind of like the his version of like Denzel being a bad guy. Like it wouldn't like I feel like Denzel and Austin. Someone made this comparison like. You got some of the best like villain work that year, but I don't think Austin really reaches his full potential as a heel if he doesn't do this heel turn.
I agree, because it's kind of just, eventually he would have just had to turn face, which eventually he did, but it would have come a lot sooner, I think.
Yeah.
And, oh man, I felt...
But you were pissed, though. You wrote on the VHS, fuck Austin.
Fuck Austin. I was pissed. It worked. It worked. I used to love Austin. I mean, he made the people who loved him hate him.
Yeah. And I'm glad they did it, because, Angle, like, when Angle turned babyface, it didn't last that long, but the initial babyface turns, like, he would just get, like, these monster reactions when he first turned.
Yeah.
Like, maybe for the first couple pay-per-views.
The crowd that was into it, the people who were invested in it, seemed to really, really like it. Because I know, just as we're saying this stuff, I'm sure there are people who are listening who didn't like the Austin heel thing. There are a lot of people who look back on it and say it was a mistake.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, everybody turns heel. Everybody turns face. Like, why is it such a headache with Austin turning heel? Because everybody does it. But it's like, is Austin the only one that's not allowed to do it because he's, like, reached such an astronomical level?
Yeah.
Like, when Angle turns heel or babyface, it's like, oh, all right, that was his turn. When Jericho turned heel, it's like, oh, okay, it was time for Jericho to turn heel.
Yeah, maybe people just weren't ready to boo him yet, because remember, he had been sidelined for a year.
Yeah.
And he comes back, and we were all really excited. And then it was like him telling everyone to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
And but it was still, you get to the Invasion. I think once you get to Benoit, Jericho winning the tag team titles against them and Triple H, then I think it starts to get a lot more interesting, a lot more compelling. They just spent the first couple months just sort of like beating the shit out of people and just trying to make you hate them.
Right.
But then, Benoit, Jericho comes. It's like, okay, this is interesting. Then the Invasion comes, and it's like a whole new show. The whole thing is.
I've always said the timing of the Invasion and Austin's heel turn. It was just, I just thought it came at a weird time. It's like, why would you pick this time to turn Austin heel when you got this WCW Invasion on the horizon? It's just kind of weird. But when I look back on it, I think it all worked out. But I did want to make this point about Austin, though. I mean, we were just saying, like, why is this such a delicate subject, turning Austin heel? And Jim Ross was saying this. He was saying, when you have a monster money-making babyface, it's very important that you don't play with it too much, or you don't mess with it too much, because if you do, like, you could kind of, destroy the company.
Yeah,
he was saying that, and I kind of agree with that. The difference between Austin and Jericho and Angle is, like, Jericho and Angle never really reached that plateau of, being that over.
Hulk Hogan level, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Artistically, I love it, but business-wise, I guess it wasn't the best thing to do.
Right. And that goes to music a lot of times. Like, we look at Illmatic by Nas. Like, everybody thinks that's his best album. The album, it took 10 years for that album to go platinum. So my point is, some of the best critically received work, even in wrestling, it's not going to do financially, like, astronomical.
Yeah. I just feel like if you change the way you're doing it, and you go back and you say, okay, Austin's going to beat Rock clean, or mostly clean, at WrestleMania. They shake hands, they hug, like Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 6 sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you get to the next night, Triple H hits him with a sledgehammer, and Vince McMahon's in a chair laughing at it or something, or Undertaker turns heel and tombstones him, into a grave or something. Like, okay, it's basically just like, you're doing the same stuff.
1999 all over.
1999 all over again. Is that the way it should be? Artistically, it was whose decision was it? Was it one guy?
No, I mean, Austin has said this in the documentaries. Jim Ross was saying that he's had fights with Austin about turning heel. He's had arguments with Vince about, this is not the right thing to do. But Vince would always say this, Austin got us, he got us past the Monday Night Wars. We at least owe it to him to see if this could work.
Right, and he wanted to try it, and Austin wanted to try it.
Right, he felt he was stale. He wanted to expand his character. It gave his character so many different dimensions.
Oh yeah, totally, absolutely, yeah. So I mean, it could have just become stale toast.
Yeah.
Unless if The Rock doesn't go to Hollywood, you do a rematch with face versus face at Backlash.
Well, I think that was the intriguing thing when when you look at how these guys make money, when you main event these pay-per-views, you get, a really, really good bonus. And I think he saw that, Triple H, The Rock, those guys had got themselves as fan favorites almost with Triple H. I think Triple H would have turned babyface. And you just see the potential with a babyface Rock versus a heel Austin if it was promoted right.
Right.
They could have really... made a lot of money. I think that was the attractive thing in terms of why he wanted to turn heel. But yeah, you know what? We got to get through this pay-per-view. So
that was important because it all leads up to the invasion, and that's why it was such an important pay-per-view. Important time.
And it's important to also point out that a lot of the WCW legends were still under contract with Time Warner, like Ric Flair, Goldberg, Sting, and all these different legends. So that's why, and NWO, that's why you didn't see them until, those contracts had expired. Right. So, they went with a lot of the younger guys or guys that were willing to, be bought out of their contracts and actually take less money like a Booker T or like a Diamond Dallas Page. All right, so let's get going. First match tonight, we got ECW's Mike Awesome and Lance Storm taking on the Edge and Christian babyface team. So Edge won King of the Ring. You could definitely see signs of jealousy from Christian. Mike Awesome was actually the first WCW guy to win a belt. I think he actually won the hardcore title. And Vince was like, some WCW creep, Mike Awesome won one of my belts. And then you got Lance Storm going up his Canadian friends here. So, yeah, this was a good opener. I thought this was one of the better things of the night. But I'll say this, though. It was really an adjustment watching Christian wrestle at that time as a babyface. Like, it didn't feel natural. Yeah, like, they were chanting, you fucked up to him when he botched a tope he actually tripped on the rope. But, yeah, other than that, man, like, it wasn't pretty. There were some awkward moments, but it still had good energy. There was still, like, some... ducks out of the way. Lance Storm hits him with the super kick. Some really, really nice breakups here. I thought it was one of the better things of the show, and it really kind of planted the seeds for, Christian turning on Edge, because it still just didn't feel natural to see Christian as a babyface at that time. But do you remember anything about Edge and Christian at that time?
I remember Edge winning the King of the Ring. I remember Christian being jealous of him. But I don't remember this match that well. I'm sorry, but I do remember it was just weird.
Yeah, but I would say Lance Storm, probably the highlight of his run was this summer. He actually won the Intercontinental belt, I think, from Albert a couple weeks after this. And, Mike Awesome was great in ECW, but I don't think you really saw him after this. But, yeah, let's move on to the next match. You might remember this. We got WCW referee Nick Patrick taking on WWF's favorite son, Earl Hebner. Do you remember the referee versus referee thing?
The exiled favorite son. I do vaguely remember it. I'm sure it was pretty messy. I'm sure it was pretty sloppy.
Yeah, it almost felt like a lumberjack match with the referees. I mean, no one wants to see referees fight. But you know what, though? I thought this was cool because Nick Patrick was going to play a huge role as a biased heel referee. We've seen heel referees in Chikara. So I don't really mind the heel thing. I thought it actually worked. I thought it was cool. But yeah, I mean,
and then the referee surrounded the ring. The other refs.
Yeah.
Oh, that actually.
The only thing is,
actually is kind of a neat idea.
Like, since they're going to build up Nick Patrick as this evil referee, he probably should have went over here. Instead, they had the WWF actually win the first 3 matches. But
well, that plays into the end of the show.
Yeah. All right, so next up we have the APA, Bradshaw and Farooq, actually taking on Sean O'Hare and Chuck Palumbo from WCW.
Wow.
So yeah, I thought the APA looked good here. Chuck Palumbo was able to show off his athleticism. I'll definitely agree with Jim Ross. Sean O'Hare was really not ready for prime time yet. And you could definitely argue that when you watch the show back, it almost felt like this was a tryout pay-per-view or maybe like an audition. So it definitely that's the reason why I think the pay-per-view wasn't that good. It almost felt like a lot of these guys were just trying out. But yeah, Bradshaw hits the clothesline out of hell straight out of nowhere. Good physical match. I didn't think it was bad. But yeah, I mean, you have any memories of Sean O'Hare and Chuck Palumbo?
No, I just keep thinking, well, this is pre-Billy and Chuck.
Yeah,
this is pre-Billy and Chuck.
Yeah, but like, to me, when I think of guys that when they were watching the Invasion and they felt disconnected because of too many WCW guys, this is what kind of jumps out at me, like this Sean O'Hare, Chuck Palumbo tag team.
Yeah. No, I it's kind of more generic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bradshaw was kind of, leading this crusade against the WCW guys. And there was actually backstage reports that, a lot of guys were critical because WCW guys were getting paid, since WrestleMania and hadn't been working. So there was, so there was a lot of heat and animosity. I'm assuming it was guys like Bradshaw and Hardcore Holly, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sure Bob Holly had a
I could definitely see it being guys like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're getting paid not to do anything.
Right.
It's probably going to cause some rumblings.
Well, that's what they were used to in WCW. So.
All right, next up we have the WCW Cruiserweight versus Light Heavyweight Championship match. You know what? Now, this was not a championship match. Neither belt was actually on the line, but it's the Cruiserweight champ versus the WWF Light Heavyweight champ. So you got Billy Kidman versus X-Pac. All right, the problem with this was X-Pac wasn't received like a WWF guy. Like the fans really weren't into him.
Right, I was going to say.
The fans were actually more into Billy Kidman.
Right.
And the two guys just didn't. Yeah, I just feel like they didn't get enough time. It didn't feel important. Billy Kidman hit the shooting star press, and a lot of his offense did look impressive.
Yeah.
I just feel like this was really underwhelming considering how talented both guys are. Maybe if this had been the opener, it just felt extremely rushed. I mean, what do you remember about Billy Kidman and X-Pac at this time?
X-Pac's like the David Spade of pro wrestling. It's like you think he's kind of funny, but then you take Chris Farley away, and it's like, he's all right. Sorry, David Spade. But you kind of, X-Pac without, Razor and Shawn and Diesel, I never really felt like he kind of came into his own. I was excited about Billy Kidman. I do remember seeing him come out. Was this the first time we saw him, or had he been on TV before this?
No, it was his first pay-per-view match.
I remember being really excited about Billy Kidman.
Yeah.
And then, later on I was disappointed that he didn't do more. But he was a great I thought he would be a better wrestler. But he was a good wrestler. He was talented.
Yeah, I mean, he was never really able to show what he can do like he did in WCW. I think it seemed like his WCW work went a lot more appreciated.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think charisma definitely hurt him, and I don't know. He had more of a. I thought he had a better look here than he did down the road.
Yeah,
but yeah, man.
I agree.
So next up, we got the Commissioner William Regal taking on Raven. This was the worst match of the night. And when you talk about a mix of styles that just didn't work, the guys just had no chemistry. I hate to say it felt like they were going through the motions. Maybe this is the reason why you saw Regal turn heel shortly after this. And I don't think you saw Raven on pay-per-view again after this.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's crazy. But, yeah, they just did not click. And maybe Regal wasn't catching on quite yet as a babyface because I thought Regal cut some great promos, with Tajiri, to really, pump up the WWF. I mean, a lot of his promos went over really well as a babyface. Wow. But maybe it just didn't resonate with the crowd quite yet. But yeah, it ended up being a dud of a match. I mean, I was surprised at how bad this was. And both guys, you could definitely argue that both guys are legends in their own way. Like Raven's an ECW legend. Regal's I think Regal's very well respected amongst technical wrestling fans. So
just kind of bad. How long was the match?
It was like 5 minutes.
Well, come on. What can you do? What can those guys do with 5 minutes, though?
Yeah, but it felt like it went 5 minutes too long, though. That's
Jesus, that's not good.
I mean, two great wrestlers doesn't always equate to something good. I don't know what was going on here.
With Raven, it's got to be the right situation, and Regal's great, but you need a good face to go in there with him. Yeah.
All right, a lot of meat in this match. We got the Big Show teaming up with Billy Gunn to take on the Intercontinental Champion Albert. Remember Albert winning the IC title?
I think so.
This might have been one of the most under the radar Intercontinental Championship reigns ever, right?
Who did he win?
It must have beat Kane, right? I think he beat Kane. Kane was IC champ at King of the Ring, so I'm assuming it was Kane. And then they're taking on WCW's Kanyon. Morrus.
Who better than
Kanyon? And then you got Shawn Stasiak. So all these guys got kind of made fun of during the Invasion. Kanyon actually called himself the Invasion MVP, but that's a lump of shit because we all know who the Invasion MVP was, RVD. And so Kanyon was like, who better than Austin? Who better than Kanyon? And then Hugh Morrus was eventually he was the trainer for Tough Enough, but he was funny because Austin would like bully these guys, and he would say, "Hugh Morrus, what? Is that funny? Is that humorous? Is that Hugh Morrus?" And then remember Shawn Stasiak, like he would always like. He would like always fall into a wall, and they would always make fun of him. He would always be botching stuff. So he had a great physique, though. His father actually was a former WWF champion, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I mean, this was just. I thought Albert looked good here. Billy Gunn was kind of directionless at this time. He was a heel with that promo with Edge, but at this match, he's supposed to be playing a babyface. So that was an awkward transition. Basically, Stasiak hits an inverted DDT. Kanyon puts his shoulder over for the cover. Okay. And then Shawn Stasiak tries to lift the leg, and it just comes off really flat. It's like, why would you don't need to lift the leg if the guy's putting his arm over the guy to pin him. So it almost seemed like they punished Stasiak throughout the summer because of that finish. I mean, it just looked really bad. But after the match is over, Big Show just chokeslams the shit out of everybody, and that's how the match ends right there. All right, next up we got Tajiri taking on ECW's Tazz. I thought this was one of the better things on the show. Oh, wow. Tazz definitely looked like he was letting himself go at the time. He wasn't wearing the singlet anymore. He definitely looked like he put on some weight. He looked kind of slow.
Didn't he basically retire?
Yeah, he was kind of like going back and forth between wrestler and announcer, so I don't know what he wanted to do, but Tajiri looked awesome here, though, man. Tajiri's offense, the tarantula, the miss, the kicks. I thought Tajiri was an incredible worker, but
That's great. Yeah. That's great.
And he actually goes over Tazz here. I mean, people would argue that because Tazz is a former ECW champion, he should have went over, but I don't know. I just thought Tazz was kind of, the beginning of the end for him here.
Yeah. No, you could definitely see it, and he kind of became Austin's whipping boy, moving forward through the rest of the summer.
Yeah, like he would always forget to wear an Austin shirt. He's like, "Is that a Stone Cold shirt? Is that a WCW shirt?" It's like, "Nah, boss, I'm sorry."
It's one of mine. Yeah.
All right, so next up we got your favorite match of the night, everybody's favorite match of the night. We got Jeff Hardy taking on Rob Van Dam, the Hardcore Championship match. I mean, this is an amazing match, but what really stands out to me, this is so far and above everything else you've seen on this card before. It's finally something that friggin' over delivers and is amazing.
Yeah.
I remember when you saw I was actually not paying attention to the match when we watched the pay-per-view. You just came and got me like, "Oh man, you got to see this guy. This guy is awesome. He's amazing."
Yeah. It was a whole other wavelength.
Yeah.
It opened a whole other door to professional wrestling, a whole other career to look back into, because his whole ECW, all his ECW stuff we hadn't seen before.
No.
And so it opened a whole other door for professional wrestling. This match in particular with RVD. It was just incredible. And give credit to Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy was great too, but RVD
I don't think
so good.
Jeff never clicked as a singles guy as well as he did with RVD.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Edge and some other guys,
Punk,
but these RVD matches are, without a doubt, the most anyone's ever gotten out of Jeff Hardy.
It almost felt like, and it's funny. I don't know if you know any of the background story and the booking and the setup for this match, but it was almost like, "Hey RVD, just play the hits. Just play your greatest hits." Yeah. And it was like, it's like if the Beatles go out there and play every most popular song, or if it was
just saying he was allowed to do his thing, even though there was all this hesitation that he was going to be watered down. RVD was the one guy that wasn't watered down during the Invasion. He was able to really, the ECW style really transferred over very well.
It makes you wonder if Paul Heyman was involved and basically said, "Hey, look, Vince, just let him do his thing, and you'll see what we mean." I don't know.
And it's funny. I remember Van Dam saying that he was upset because a lot of his matches, maybe on TV, just weren't getting the time that he wanted. But here he had almost 20 minutes to just do his thing. I mean, you saw everything. You saw so much crazy stuff. I mean, the highlight of the match for me is, they had this ramp where you had the ECW guys and WCW guys coming out of one ramp, and then you had the WWE guys coming out of the other one. So it was kind of like split, and then it divided. Then you had like this hole in the middle, and then Jeff is going to hit him with the chair. And Van Dam's like, no, don't hit me. And then he gives him the Van Daminator right into the crease. And it just looks friggin' awesome. Like, that was the spot of the match for me.
Give credit to Jeff Hardy for being willing to take that freaking bump, man. That's insane. By the way,
Trish almost falls in that.
Trish almost fell into. I remember everything.
Yeah, you remember
about
that.
The match going into the match.
Right, you remember everything about this match, yeah.
Because Trish almost fell in to that hole on her way back from her match.
Do you think she would have gotten hurt?
I think. Yeah, because she probably wasn't ready. She might have twisted an ankle. Who knows? It wasn't
so
like.
Jeff is taking the Van Daminator into it, but he's expecting it.
It looked 5 or 6 feet from the ground. It was a high enough. Maybe not 6 feet, but it was high enough where if you fall, like 5 feet doesn't sound like a lot. Try falling 5 feet. Like, it's a bump, man. Like, it hurts. So that freaking spot is just etched into my memory.
Yeah, I remember Jim Ross just being like, "This guy's a hell of an athlete." Like he was surprised at how good Van Dam looked.
And let me say, maybe Paul Heyman didn't have to say much. Vince McMahon and JR and all their guys, they knew what they were getting. They had seen, they tried to get him to go to WWE years earlier.
Yeah, this is a rematch. The Jeff Hardy and Van Dam, they had a match on Raw, like when Van Dam was doing the Mr. Monday Night stuff back in the day. So.
Oh, man. I've never seen that.
They got it on the Van Dam DVD, actually.
Okay, is it good? Is it a good match?
I don't remember.
I didn't see it. It's probably not as good, but it would be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, they did a lot of stuff. Do you remember the stuff with the ladder, though? Like, Jeff Hardy took a ladder out, looked like he was going to use it as a weapon. He just climbs up to the top of it, and then Van Dam knocks him off onto the ramp. And then Jim Ross was like, well, how are you going to fall off a ladder? My big Oklahoma butt, you guys know how to fall off a ladder. How do you learn how to fall?
How do you learn how to fall off
a 20-foot ladder? They use that soundbite for all the parental discretion is advised commercials.
Yeah, well, not anymore.
Yeah, but that bringing out the ladder was kind of weird. I know Jeff wanted to use it as a weapon, but it was just kind of there. Yeah. But that sunset flip was nasty that Van Dam took.
Oh my God.
You remember that one?
Oh my God, yeah. I'll watch that. I gotta watch that match again, man. That's insane.
And then I'm trying to think. Yeah, obviously Van Dam won with the frog splash on the hardcore title, but he did the Van Terminator. Jeff with the Swanton. I mean, it went back and forth. The fans. This is the only guy that the fans were cheering out of the alliance was RVD, and obviously his popularity just kept growing and growing. And it wasn't just ECW fans that were chanting for him, and eventually guys like me that never seen him before. Yeah. To me, like this is like Van Dam was my favorite wrestler when we went to that SmackDown in November. So. I mean,
real quick, I just say, and I know it's disappointing because he had to forfeit the title. Which, looking back,
we're not talking about 2006.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying that. How cool was it that he comes in 2001 after having this what really felt like an indie career. I don't know if people consider ECW indie, but it certainly felt indie. Right. It was indie, as indie as it could be. And then he comes in. It takes him 5 years to win his first WWE championship.
Yeah, but it only took him 3 months to main event a pay-per-view, though.
Right.
By October, he was main eventing with Austin and Angle.
True.
So he was like the leader of the alliance, the leader of the invasion. Stephanie was actually petitioning for him to take over Austin's spot after Austin lost the belt. I'm sure a lot of people probably forget about that. But, Van Dam, like, this was the biggest push RVD ever got. And that's why I like the invasion. Like the two guys that they focus on more than anybody were Booker T and RVD. Yeah. And those are the guys you wanted them to push when you get to, when Triple H was champion for all those years. You thought, why doesn't Van Dam get a shot? How come Booker T didn't win at WrestleMania?
That's one thing I would say that the cream did rise to the top. And respect to Booker T. I was never a huge fan of Booker T, but Booker T was great. Booker T had good matches. Booker T was a hell of a professional, and Booker T and a hell of an athlete, and he always proved it and always had solid matches. They never blew me away, but they were always solid. And RVD was always just RVD. You know, I think
when you look back on it, do you kind of wish that Van Dam had won the title that year? Yeah.
No, because I was just going to say it was so satisfying and gratifying to see him win it 5 years later. With the way he did it, in the environment that he did it in, it all came from.
Well, I think because of the ending, I'm looking back on it so negatively because of how that ended. I'm just like, who really cares about that time?
Now everybody.
Maybe it was too late.
I don't care what you're listening. Look, everybody's legalizing marijuana. It's so, looking back, it's just disappointing because it's like, who gives a shit?
Right.
So he smoked some weed. So I'm just saying, that was such a cool, looking back at this match and seeing how it culminated 5 years later in the ECW arena. It was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect. So, instead of griping about the disappointing way that it ended, just say, wow, it's pretty fucking amazing.
Well, yeah, he won the belt. I mean, the reign wasn't. He didn't get the chance to have a reign, but he did win the championship.
What he did was so cool.
All right, next up we got the first ever tag team bra and panties match. We got Trish Stratus and Lita taking on Torrie Wilson and Stacy Keibler. I mean, this might have been the most attractive match in WWF history in terms of looks and in terms of physical attributes and things of that nature. But
higher ratings.
But I mean, it was a bra and panties match, so a lot of people look back at these matches very negatively. But at the same time, I thought, I'll say this about, I'm trying to say something good about the match. I thought it was good because it showed that WCW have very attractive, athletic, sexy-looking women, and it was able to showcase that. And then Trish and Lita, Trish almost killed herself by falling in the pit at the end. I definitely do remember that. And but yeah, man, this had a lot of sex appeal to it, and it was just a good way to kind of kind of lighten things up before the main event. So, I mean, you got anything to add about these women right here?
No, but I do agree. Looking back, you do kind of go, man, like it's great where women's wrestling has come in the last
20 years. Yeah,
20 years.
I mean, look at Money in the Bank. The best match of the night was a women's match.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. With Charlotte.
Or arguably, I'm sure a lot of people would disagree about that.
Yeah. What's her name? Brutality. What's her name?
Rhea Ripley.
Ripley. Yeah. That was hell of a match. But what is important to point out that in 2002, Trish started really becoming a great wrestler, and coming into her own. Was it 20? Yeah, it was 2002, yeah. And they had the first women's hardcore match I had ever seen with her and Victoria, and so to see where it went, even in that time, with Trish Stratus's career, is pretty cool, you know. So.
Yeah, but even Torrie and Stacy, even though they can't say what they accomplished what Trish did, but it still seems to me like Stacy's probably never going to get into the Hall of Fame, but Torrie Wilson is a Hall of Famer, and it's almost like you look back at Torrie and Stacy, miraculously, they were able to become legendary because of their looks to a degree.
Well, Stacy Keibler is just a mouth-watering, gorgeous, amazing-looking woman. So
and then Billy Kidman's the world's greatest underachiever. For marrying Torrie Wilson. So, yeah, I mean, they're so good looking and they're so, I mean, physically they're just so, jaw dropping that, they ended up having great careers, even though they didn't put in the effort that, Trish or even Lita did. Yeah. All right, so let's move on.
I know he didn't say Lita. Of course, Lita was very good, but I know we'll have to move on, but I will say, isn't it ironic? I look back, I have a lot more respect for what Trish did than what Lita did. Lita might have been more cool, and in the beginning, everyone looked at her like she was more athletic, and maybe she was, but her wrestling career kind of stilted, whereas Trish's kind of went up.
Yeah, she had some injuries, and I think once the injury healed, like what happened with Edge was just so, it was such a storyline time bomb that I think her career just went into like that slutty direction.
Yeah, she was kind of doing that. Yeah. She got away from the wrestling.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like when you think of Trish's great wrestling, it's like they flip-flopped.
They did.
To a degree. I mean, Trish and Lita did have some good matches on Raw. They actually main evented a Raw in 2004. But you're right. Other than that, I think when you look back at the highlight of Lita's wrestling career, it's probably like 2001. All right, so we get to the inaugural Brawl. We got Booker T, Diamond Dallas Page, Rhino, and the Dudley Boys taking on Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho, Undertaker, and Kane. I mean, I'll say this about this match and the Invasion. I know a lot of people. When you look at what people were fantasizing about, it's not the ultra sexy match in terms of the other side for WCW. But I would say this, like this storytelling with Vince McMahon and trying to get Austin to realize, like we've never had a threat like this in the WWF. We've never had this imposing of a threat to that really. They're going to take us out of business. Steve, do you realize what's going on? And then he's like, you know who I need? I need the old Stone Cold. Like, I think this is some of the best storytelling they've ever done. And then Austin, the Austin that I need, it's not an Austin that gives me hugs. It's not an Austin that gives me gifts. It's not the Stone Cold that sings it with the guitar, Yeah. I mean, don't you think this is a great storyline?
It really.
I mean, Vince was great though, and so
fired us up. Really fired us up.
And then he had all that comedy stuff with Austin and Angle and the cowboy hats. It just it's funny. They were so far away from taking this seriously, and then at the very end they're like, "Holy shit, we got to get our shit together." Like I need the old Stone Cold.
Yeah. No, it really worked. It really worked because you got to it was funny what they were doing with the cowboy hats and everything, but you started to think like what are we watching here, and so yeah, and I think that did they use that same music in the doc? I need the old Stone Cold that with the violin. They used to use for Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart all the time. Yeah, it worked really well.
No, people still use that Vince catchphrase. I need the old Stone Cold. Like I think on WFN this guy was like, I need the old Matt Harvey or I need the old Derrick Rose.
It's really good. I remember watching. I thought that was a SmackDown, but it could have been a
SmackDown, yeah.
And I remember when he said,
Austin walked away.
Yeah, when I need the old Stone Cold, I stood up.
Yeah.
I got out of my chair and I was like, oh shit! Like yes, this is what I've been waiting for. And then he walks away, and you just kind of sit back in your chair and you're like, oh, it was good. It was really well done. It was really well put together. Leading up to that Raw that we talked about, breaking the pool stick, and people wanted to. There was an anger in that crowd from like 97, 98 to this time that just wanted to explode when Austin came out. Yeah. It was like a real cathartic thing that fans had to let out. And with what they did at WrestleMania, it was just like, screw you people. And then you just kind of like, it was just.
Yeah, but when you get to Invasion though, like a lot of people say this is, possibly the biggest pop Austin ever got, at least on a pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Over the Edge 98 could rival this, but I think this, when Austin, and Angle got a huge pop too. Like, I think all that character enhancement for both Austin and Angle definitely helped. Really? I thought all these guys got great reaction. I thought the crowd was great here. I thought everybody was over. I mean, do you remember anything about the match? I remember when we were younger, you told me you were most impressed by Angle. A lot of that had to, Angle looked great here, but they were also booking him to look strong for Austin, though.
And because he had come off of that match with Shane at King of the Ring.
Now Shane's a bad guy, in control. So that's the other thing we forgot to gloss over. Stephanie is ECW, Shane is WCW. They formed this alliance. I did want to mention that. Paul Heyman is actually, with them as well. What do you think of the whole Shane, Stephanie, and Paul Heyman?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird. It was weird. The Invasion side was definitely.
I mean, ideally you would want Eric Bischoff to be there, but at the time I think it was too soon, and I just don't think they were ready. I think they did make Bischoff an offer, but I think he saw the writing on the wall.
Sure.
So.
Oh, you mean like with the storyline?
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't like.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I think he wanted to wait until it died out.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah. Well, once again, the other thing that flipped is a couple things flipped. Shane and Stephanie. Shane was the face at WrestleMania.
It's the face at King of the Ring.
Yeah, it's face King of the Ring, and they were going up against McMahon. I think Stephanie, stayed.
Well, the storyline was that the sins of the father have come back to haunt him. So that whole affair with Trish, this whole thing with buying WCW and buying ECW to put him out of business was kind of like revenge for that. That was just the storyline.
Yeah, no, and it was a little weird, but yeah, there was a lot of like face heel flipping stuff, you know, and so you did kind of have to like. change the frequencies in your brain for like who you were looking at, why you were watching, and who you were rooting for. But the Austin flip was just was beautiful. It was beautifully executed. It was really
At Invasion?
Before and at Invasion.
Yeah.
I thought it was because like I went from loving him to hating him all over again, and that's what I remember. That's really all I remember.
All right, so let me kind of break this down for you. So during the match, like Kane and the Dudleys like putting each other through tables. Jericho does this shoulder block to Rhino, puts him through a table, and then Angle's like ankle slamming and ankle locking Bubba and Booker T. I think he actually has Booker T in the ankle lock, and the Angle looks like $1 million. Like the fans are going crazy for him. And Austin was great throughout this whole thing because he was really pumping the fans up. He was still acting like a heel, but the fans were still like really into Austin throughout this whole thing. Yeah. So the referee got knocked down, and Austin puts the referee in the ring, and then Jim Ross is like, "Austin putting the referee back in the ring. That's the right thing to do." Then all of a sudden he just kicks Angle while Angle has the ankle lock locked in, and then he hits Angle with the stunner. Right. And he puts Booker T's arm over Angle, and then they count the 3. Yeah, and that's how it ended.
I just remember everyone just like being shocked, and I was just shocked. You son of a bitch, So it was
especially with the way Austin's like demeanor was throughout this whole thing. I've never seen him like more pumped up before, so it was a little shocking. It was a good swerve. It really was.
I can't remember. Did Austin like wrestle or hit any of the other?
No,
guys?
he did. No, here's how it. They had DDP come out last, so Undertaker could start like getting his revenge on him for the whole Sarah stuff. And then Austin comes out and he's beating up everybody, and Austin and Angle were supposed to be hurt here. Supposed to still be selling injuries. I think Dave Meltzer actually stated that he didn't think they were going to do a lot in the ring. They ended up doing a lot, actually. Austin actually did get in there and wrestle. You did buy into him actually, really trying to win this thing for the WWF. And then Vince got involved. Shane got involved. There was like title belt shots from both of those guys. So, and then the pay-per-view ends with Austin drinking beer with Paul Heyman, Steph, and Shane. That's how it ends. Yeah.
Damn. Cool. It's cool. It was very memorable. It was a very memorable pay-per-view.
I mean, do you remember this thing being? Do you think it was a little bit too long, or maybe too much of a cluster mess because it was a 10-man tag? Do you remember any of that?
I do remember it being a bit of a mess, but that's a really good ground for something like that to happen. Because of the chaos and everything in the ring. I think it's a really good ground to do something like that. Something special can happen in a situation. It would be lame if it would just end with a pinfall. Yeah. But because
it was a good swerve. I think it was, and I just think at the time they didn't have a lot of confidence on that side of the roster. I mean, let's just close it out with this. And I just want to focus on the WCW side. Booker T, DDP, Rhino, Dudley Boys. I mean, if you could go back in time, would you keep this the same way it was, even though you have limitations? I mean, were you cool with this roster for the Alliance, specifically at this time with Booker T being champion and the supporting cast? Was that good enough?
All those big guys you mentioned, the Sting, Goldberg, Hogan, like Flair, they're all so big that if you bring them in with it, it just changes the dynamic. If Goldberg is in it, it's all about Goldberg. And if it's Hogan, it's all about Hogan. I think Sting and Flair are their characters are as such where they can be more part of something, but they're still like, wow, that's Sting and Flair. Yeah. All of a sudden you look at the WWE side and you go, I don't know, I'm not sure if, let's see, I'm not sure if Kane's going to be in that. If maybe
it's interesting name, too. Like, and if you have Rock, you got Triple H, you got Benoit. And if they were all healthy, it's like, well, where would they fit into this thing?
Yeah. Oh, the idea of like Rock, Austin, Triple H.
All right, so you want all right,
like the WWE, like
you want to give like your fantasy team if you had like unlimited amount of resources, unlimited amount of politics to actually book this thing.
Right. Yeah.
Want to just give you a quick Invasion dream
at that
scenario? No. I'm just saying in general. Say you had no time limit or no time frame limitations.
Oh, no time frame limitations at all.
Yeah. Pick your team WWF for that time.
CM Punk. Daniel.
No.
Oh, it has to be at that time. I thought you meant every. Oh, okay. I was like, oh wait.
CM Punk had nothing to do with the invasion.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying you open. I thought you were saying.
No, I was just saying.
Any
but the CM
okay.
Punk thing that takes us to another decade.
Okay. Well, I thought you meant any time in WWE history.
I'm just saying, take injuries out of the equation.
Okay, at that time.
Yeah.
2001.
So, say Triple H wasn't hurt.
So no.
And say the contracts.
Right.
weren't keeping them out of the WWF.
Dream Team at that time.
Yeah. Give me your 5-on-5 dream scenario.
Okay. Well, Austin.
All right. Austin,
The
Rock, Triple H.
No, I'm gonna maybe Austin, Rock, Jericho.
Jericho was great in that
at the time, not anymore because of what he did. Benoit.
Yeah, but Benoit was a WCW guy. You could argue.
True, but maybe
you could argue Jericho too.
So
But Jericho made it be known that WCW sucked.
Yeah.
Benoit never did that.
He did later on, after that. So I think honestly, I'm at Rock, Austin, Benoit, Jericho, and then.
Angle?
Yeah, I guess I would put.
You leave out.
Angle.
Yeah,
I was going to say Bret Hart.
All right, so I was
going to say Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, but I don't think. Does that?
No, well, that's they weren't active during the invasion. I'm just talking about guys that were pretty much active in 2001.
Okay.
And what would your dreams WCW team be?
Rob Van Dam. And now I can include the Goldberg.
No, you can include anyone from ECW and WCW.
Okay, because there's the 10 Commandments, and then there's your dream. This is I'm just joking. There's I would say Rob Van Dam. Oh God,
you probably keep it the same way.
Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero. If I could use him.
Eddie Guerrero got fired. Almost got fired.
Right, and then I gotta have it. But Guerrero could have been on either side. But I'm Mysterio, Guerrero, RVD, and then I guess I would have done. I don't know. I'll start with those three guys. Yeah.
All right. So basically, you're not one of these guys that's just going to pick a whole bunch of WCW legends.
Like legends? No, because Goldberg and Hogan bore me.
All right. Yeah. So you're the wrong guy to ask for like a fantasy Monday Night War invasion tag.
Why does that make me the wrong guy? It's my fantasy team.
No, it doesn't make you the wrong guy. I'm just saying your tastes they're not really compatible with what a lot of the Monday Night War fans were liked at the time.
Because it's not as much. It's not about star power. You're
going more for the wrestling.
Going more for the wrestling and the
right.
athleticism.
So that's why we like the invasion because our dream scenario was really not that far from what they already had.
Yes, to an extent. Mysterio didn't come in until later. Guerrero came back eventually, but yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I liked, but there were, like you said, a lot of these guys, the Hugh, Morrus, Shawn, Stasiak.
Well, yeah, let me ask you this.
They were kind of duds, but that doesn't mean that, there were a lot of duds out there.
All right, and we had friends that watched WWF their whole lives, but then during the invasion, they would say that, it got gay when the WCW guys came in, like your friend Brenton.
Because people
how would you respond to that?
People, if you grew up in the 2000s, people in the late 90s and 2000s called everything gay. You know that. You're not an idiot. But that's just how people were. What was the question?
Like when people said it got gay when the WCW guys came in, why would they say that? And then why would they stop watching wrestling because of the invasion?
I guess it was unfocused. It was chaotic. And the fans weren't necessarily ready for it. The first night,
too much oversaturation of talent, maybe.
Buff Bagwell and Booker T had a match on Raw. That was the first time I ever heard a whole crowd chant, "This match sucks."
Well, yeah, they were gonna have WCW every night, right?
Yeah, that was the storyline.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if they were they actually going to do that?
Well, the idea was the match was so poorly received that they scrapped it.
Yeah, no, it was bad. It didn't work. It just didn't work.
It wasn't Booker T's fault. It was the other guys, Buff Bagwell.
Buff Bagwell, and you never saw him again.
Never saw him again. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It didn't really work, but that's okay. But it was still a very interesting.
Yeah, and Vince, I don't think Vince enjoyed the invasion. I remember Survivor Series. He was like, "I'm sick of this alliance crap, this invasion crap. So we're gonna have a winner take all." So yeah, he probably couldn't wait to get out of it. And I just remember a lot of people definitely wanted it to end. But I think what gets lost is there was so much great talent there, like from Tajiri to Lance Storm to Rob Van Dam to Booker T, and even Torrie Wilson and Stacy Keibler. Like, I think after 9/11, this whole, us versus them thing died down, and they just really became one big family, and there was really no looking back for me. Like, I wasn't biased against anybody that came from WCW.
No.
But yeah.
No.
That's pretty much it, man.
Exactly. Yeah. But the thing, it is kind of cool that the Survivor Series, I remember one thing that was cool about that Survivor Series is that there was a good reason for the Survivor Series match, classic 5-on-5, because there's all those old ones from the Hogan era where it was
it definitely meant something. It meant something. It wasn't like a Survivor Series match where it's like, oh, Triple H's team versus Umaga's team, the winner gets a bowl of fruit. Like this was like, oh man, the loser is going out of business. And I know it was a little bit corny looking back on it with Stephanie crying and all that shit, but that was still a nice blow off thing. But then a lot of people just look at it like, oh, it was WWF versus WWF. It came down to Rock versus Austin. Like, who cares? But it depends on how you look at it. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. That's the Invasion, the pay-per-view review. And any final thoughts about the show as a whole? Like, was there anything on this undercard that you would actually go back to besides Rob Van Dam and Jeff Hardy?
I think I'd probably go back to
Edge and Christian.
Maybe just Tazz and Tajiri.
Yeah.
And that's probably it. And of course, yeah, RVD and
yeah, it's a really bad undercard. And I remember our friend Matt Tucci. We were actually having a debate like what pay-per-views were better, 2001 or 2005, and he said he enjoyed 2005 more, and it's hard to disagree with him when I see an undercard like this. So, but that's pretty much it. That's the Invasion, and we're out. All right.